Hi, everyone. My name is Denise Meredith, and I'm the CEO of the World's Best Connectors. The World's Best Connectors is a community of CEOs who help other CEOs get their jobs done. And what we do is we help them better engage with their family, with their clients, their employees, government, and the media. This year, we're focusing on family, which we haven't done in a while because CEOs don't like to talk about family. They like to talk about work. But the point we're trying to make this year and next is that family is actually as important, more important than their job. And it helps you get your job done too. So what we're going to do this year is focus on student athletes. And as people know me, I have a pretty strong background in sports for some time. And I keep saying I'm going to get out of it. And then I'm back. But it's what I want to do is what I've always thought was lacking was we were wasting a lot of talent because we weren't taking advantage of the talents that student athletes have. They're obviously disciplined. They have to be. A lot of them have a lot of charisma. They have leadership skills. But as soon as they can't run down the field anymore, we're done. So what we're going to do is really help them have a happier, safer, more profitable career. And it may wind up not being in sports. So with that, I want to get started today. And we have four really good speakers today. I think Sam will be on soon. And what we're going to talk about today, this is the third episode. The first one is online at wishihadknown.net or wish-I-had-known.com. So I wish that you all would take a look at that website. One, it has all the information on the people that are speaking today, but also we'll tell you when the next episode is coming up. And the next one is going to be on September 12th, and it's going to be about other businesses that you can get into. So with that, I want to get started, and we're going to start with Kay or Kadra Jordan. And as you can see, she she covers she covers the sign. So that made me give you a little hint about her background and what she has done. So with that, Kay, why don't you get started?
Well, hello everyone. I am Kadra Jordan, lovingly known as Coach K. I am the owner and CEO of Next Step Enterprises, and I am a performance coach and an athlete advocate working in an NIL space as a brand agent. So Denise asked me to come on and talk about which I'd have known. I actually spoke to some parents last night about that, so I get their input later on. But first, our immediate topic was or is the team that you put around your student athlete. To make sure you align them well with the players organically. Sometimes it works out that way, sometimes not. But first, I'll tell a little bit of story about me on the parent side of this. My son played football and basketball. I just have the one child. He played up through high school. He had to choose in high school to play football because he knew he would get a scholarship in football over basketball. Plus, he went to school in California, and both teams, football and basketball, went to state every year. So it was daunting on him to do that much work. But coming up, I had a lot of help from other parents, a lot of people to help me with him to get things going. So I have been a parent on this side. So I understand the student athlete and try to get them to do as much as they can. On the coaches side of it, I've been coach for all levels from YMCA up to college, travel ball, the whole shebang. I've ran against a couple momagers or dadagers, the parents that try to be the manager for their children. And then sometimes if you've been an athlete, that does work. Sometimes it's a control thing, and but it does take a special relationship between the parent and the child to be able to handle that, because it's a lot. It's a lot. It is a lot. So as student athletes, we need a lot of resources, a lot of things to today's athletes anyway, with the NIL space, with ways to be able to utilize their platform now into retirement. So there are ways now, but you need to have a good team around them, around some things parents know, some things they don't know. And some of them, our panelists here are a great resource. So definitely listen to them on the different aspects of now. As an athlete, you are now an entrepreneur, you are now a business, and you need to conduct yourself as such. And that means on your social media, so on and so forth, but we'll get that to that at a later time. Nowadays, a lot of students are specializing in a sport. You still have some that go around for volleyball, basketball, track, whatever, but they usually specialize in a sport. So then we have to be mindful to take care of our bodies, take care of our minds, because if we're doing something repetitively, we can wear it down, even though they're young. But when you get my age, you want to be able to get up in the morning and go to the restroom. So be mindful of that. So then, as we're talking about a team around your athlete, make sure stretching and nutrition and hydration is a big part. They may not think that they're thirsty, but their bodies need it. So be aware of that. And I touched on, you student athletes are CEOs of your brand, whatever that is. Some of it, the sport may be what you do now, but you have other interests, and you can use your platform to highlight those other interests and be able to go in that once you retire. So some of the young athletes may not know what that is, but it is possible. I have a couple athletes that we're working on now, and some of them are in college and they don't quite know what they like. So we just have conversations on that, but you'll figure that out as you keep going. But parents, definitely be mindful that your kid will change, your student athlete will change. They'll have different likes, dislikes. They're gonna like something. I know I see a commercial with a little kid that was in dinosaurs, and then he became loving sharks. So it happens. It's going to happen. They're going to change. So just let them do what they do. Just be there for them to support. And on this side of it, as an agent, definitely aligning your athlete up with someone that is going to work with them organically. But sometimes you need that push. Sometimes the parents can't really do that because of your relationship. So definitely have conversations with the people. Make sure you're in the like-minded, that they do have their athlete best interest at heart, and then step back and then let them do what they do. That is what they do. So allow that. They help you manage expectations, and then prepare them for, if you're in high school going to college, or junior high going to high school, those difficult conversations that sometimes we look at our children through rose-colored glasses and they're not what you think they are. Be open, parents, be open that there are levels for everyone at their sport. Not necessarily have to be the one you see on TV, the big, Power 5 D1. That's not for everyone. That's why it's a minute group. But there are schools for everyone at all their levels. If that is their desire, it can happen. So be okay with if that's not what it is. It is okay, as long as they can get that education, get the experience, and still be able to use their platform. You still don't have to be a Power 5 student, a Power 5 school, in order to utilize what you have. Denise touched on it earlier, that you have to be disciplined. There's a lot of people that aren't as disciplined as athletes. And a lot of jobs hire athletes because of that discipline, because of that stick-to-itivism. And that's a good thing. So it does get on your nerves sometimes, but it's a good thing. So the resources on this call, there's going to be a lot of resources. It would be difficult to give you some referrals to things because athletes have different ages, different expectations. So always reach out to one of us and we can help guide you to where you're going. So we can definitely help with that. I asked a couple parents last night, So now that you are on the other end, some of them are done, some of them have different sets of kids. You know, the older kids are done, but now you have the younger ones. If you had known, what would you have known different? Um, all of them definitely reminded their student athlete that failure is okay. Remind them that it is okay. You actually learn more when you mess up, when you fail, that it is okay. Um, it's a part of the process. Everything is not always roses and sunshine. It isn't. It's ebbs and flows all the time. And it is a part of life. It is a part of the course. So parents, this one is for you specifically. The after game criticism, be mindful of that. The kids are in their heads. They have their coaches on them. They have their teammates on them, and then get in the car on the way home and have you on them as well. Give them 24 hours to focus. Sometimes they'll come back to you. Sometimes they'll ask you, so what did you see? But give them that space. Sometimes we're getting in the car and they're just like, oh my God, I'm already beat up. So just give them a beat. Just give them a beat. Sideline coaching, parents. As an ex-coach, it's difficult. We can't compete with you, parents. You feed them. We can't compete with you. If you trust the coach, allow them to do what they do. Yes, you may see that wide open lane. Allow them to do what they do. If that's the trust, you have to do it. And then just make sure you give positive affirmation. Even if it was a bad game, they were in the game. They weren't on the sideline. So feed them positive affirmation, feed them something that's going to uplift them. You can have the critical conversation, like I said before, give them 24 hours, but you were there, whatever you saw good, feed them that. They need it, because at these ages, 14 to 100, positive affirmation works well. It works much better than what did my dad always say? You can get more with honey than with vinegar. Feed them that. It does help. It does help. So that's pretty much all that I have.
Great.
I believe, Dennis, you said that you have our information.
Yeah, we'll show that at the end.
Okay,
But
at the
go
end.
ahead and give them your website.
Yes, so you can always reach out to me at nextstepenterprises.com. NXT, so the E, there's no E in next, so NXT, STEP, enterprises.com. And you can always reach out to me there. My phone number is there and everything's there. So if you want to find out anything or how I can help you out, reach out to me. My phone number, if you'd like, is 480-916-6506. And thank you guys for coming.
Oh, thank you, Coach K. I love that that nickname. But anyway, we get it obviously throughout, wish I had known, and upcoming sessions and more intensive program that we're going to have. NIL keeps coming up. NIL, let's people hear about. For some of you out there who aren't into sports all the time, that means name, image, and likeness. And it came about as a result of the NCAA changing its policy, saying that kids can now get paid for their name, image, and likeness, which is a lot fairer because a lot of people are making money off the kids and they were not getting any benefit from it. However, you can open a Pandora's box and other things pop out. So one of the things we'll be focusing on in future sessions and more intensively is how to get through that. It's a very interesting, complicated maze. And some of what you're going to hear today, you're really going to need, for instance, what Coach K was talking about, but also taxes, finances, and all the pressure this puts on your family and your mental health. You'll be hearing about that as well today. So next, we're going to skip to Tori, and I'll let her say the name of her company because we tease her about having the longest name ever for a company. But finances. That's we're going to have a really big intensive session that you'll be able to sign up for on finances. People have to, I mean, where does it stop? Food. Athletes eat a lot, right? So you have that, but you have equipment changes, you have gas keeps going up or down, up and down, but going to all the practices, belonging to clubs, on and on and on and on. So some people even have to take a second job to support the kids' sport. So finances are very important. What's happening now is a result of NIL, which is pretty interesting. Some people, and that's one thing we'll be emphasizing throughout all of the things that you hear from us on Wish I Had Known, a few people will be getting a lot of money from NIL. So far, I think in 2002, the last thing I saw, only 17% of students got something out of NIL. It's gone up since then, but still not what people think. And the amounts are not at all what people think, despite LeBron's son getting 7.5 million. So, but there's a kid that got 50 cents. So the average is a lot different than we think. So with that, but it's a very important factor. So we definitely wanted Tori to come on and talk about taxes because that's had surprised people. Of course, it surprises people who win the lottery when you win a lot of money and suddenly it's not as much as you thought. The same thing happens with NIL. NIL is income. So what's happening now, this year, all those people last year, they got income that they weren't looking at it that way, now have sort of consequences to pay. But overall, taxes are important in general. How do you, take care of your expenses? How do you make sure you're getting your deductions in there as well? So with that, Tori, you're on.
Well, hello, thank you. First and foremost, I wanted to extend my gratitude to the organizers at World's Best Connectors for inviting me to this panel. My name is Tori Pierce, and I'm a tax manager at MTN Tax and Accounting Services. We are a full-service accounting firm in Phoenix, Arizona. We assist our clients with everything from filing their sales tax and payroll reports to filing complicated tax return and providing advisory services. I'm thrilled to be here today to discuss the importance of utilizing tax professionals and building that team of experts around your young student athletes who are earning NIL income, likely for the first time in their lives. As a mother of 2 college students and with over 15 years of experience in the tax industry, this is a subject that I'm extremely passionate about. I'm delighted to share my knowledge with you here today. So let's kind of dive right into the tax aspect of NIL income. If we think about it, during the exciting period of new sponsorships and substantial payouts to student athletes for their NIL income, it's often the last thing on a student's mind is how much do I need to set aside for taxes? If we're honest, they are probably much more concerned with what color Tesla they're going to buy. I know my daughters would be. Despite my years of discussing taxes with them, I'm certain that if they received a big payout, they would be much more concerned with purchasing the newest iPad or iPhone than whether or not to save for retirement. Parents, this may be uncharted territory for you as well. Do you know how much your child would need to set aside for taxes if they received a $1.4 million payout? That's the amount that student athlete Evan Stewart at Texas A&M received in 2022 for his NIL, according to U.S. Sports Today. And as Denise stated, that's not going to be the case for everyone. But if that is the case for you and your young student athlete, it's important to have those professionals and experts in place to guide you. The answer to that question is likely no. You wouldn't know how much to tell your students to pay in taxes. Josh Petty, offensive lineman from Roswell, Georgia, who, according to an article published by onenil.com, reporter Pete Nakos just committed to Georgia Tech for a multi-million-dollar contract. Again, very exciting for him in unusual circumstances, but he did so, according to this article, by trusting a team of professionals. Interestingly enough, Josh's father, James Petty, gave a statement to onenil.com about the importance of arming yourself with information, stating, and I quote, "NIL has changed the world tremendously. But if you go on this journey and you accept this without having the information, it could drastically be different. It has changed the landscape and it has changed how people look at it. It's changed the opportunity for young men," end quote. With the recent changes the NCAA has made regarding young athletes and their ability to profit from their name, image, and likeness, Most parents are novice when it comes to navigating the complex world of taxation. Therefore, we at MTM believe that parents can benefit immensely from utilizing advisory services and the skills of a tax professional for everything from determining the most beneficial income structure to record keeping and maximizing deductions, as Denise had stated. For example, if your student receives a W-2 for their NIL sponsorship, they are limited to the number of deductions that they can take. This is uncommon. It's a lot more likely that your student athletes will be paid as independent contractors, also known as 1099 income. Working with a tax professional is going to equip parents with the necessary tools to determine whether or not the best course of action is to report that income on their student Schedule C, on their 1040 tax return, or whether or not filing an S election with the IRS to report the income is the most beneficial route. To avoid boring you with too many details, an S corporation is an LLC or a partnership that makes a valid election to be taxed under Subchapter S of the Internal Revenue Code. S corporations file an 1120S form, and they don't pay taxes on a corporate level. They operate as a pass-through tax structure, therefore avoiding double taxation by passing income, credits, deductions, and losses to their shareholders. A tax professional is going to be able to educate us as parents about the stipulations surrounding an S corporation tax return and its benefits. One benefit of filing an S corporation tax return may lead to lower self-employment tax for its owners, being your child. The IRS states that shareholders or owners of an S corporation must receive a reasonable wage. A tax professional is really going to be able to guide you through setting up payroll to ensure compliance with the IRS and any state regulations. Regardless of how the income is reported, it's likely your child will need to make estimated tax payments to avoid penalties with the IRS. At MTM, we work closely with our clients, providing advisory services. And in this situation, where we had a student with NIL income, we would perform what we call a tax projection scenario. With a tax projection, we're able to determine how much your student is going to need to set aside for their estimated tax payments. In addition to that, we're going to provide you with step-by-step instructions on making those payments to both the federal and the states so that your child remains penalty-free. In addition to the income, did you know that the free products or services that your child might receive may also be reportable and taxable? It is my personal belief that it is our job as parents to educate and protect our children all throughout their lives. They never grow out of that. As a tax professional, I know that you're going to get the expertise and the help. They're going to be able to discuss situations such as retirement plan scenarios with you and your child so that you can both plan for the future. Whether or not that is with 401k contributions or contributions to a Roth IRA, a tax professional is going to be able to assist you in deciding what scenario is the best for your child's future. To summarize, we at MTM want to encourage parents to be vigilant in matters that can have long-term impacts on your children. We gain a significant advantage when we as parents seek the advice of professionals and have those professionals in our corners backing us up when it comes to this uncharted territory of NIL income. Knowledge really is half the battle, and parents can rest assured that by working with a tax professional and surrounding themselves with a qualified team of professionals like my panelists here today, they are protecting their child's financial future. We at MTM Tax and Accounting Services are always here and happy to help. For any questions or additional resources that you may have, please visit our website at mtmtaxandaccountingservices.com. There's that long website address we were talking about. And should you have any questions, we're always available by phone as well. That telephone number is 602-795-2685. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you here today.
Great. That was a great talk. Yeah, taxes, what can we say? They're complicated to begin with. And then this came along but you think about baseball is one of my favorite sports to watch, and all of the problems those players have, because when they play a game in a different city, is taxed at a different rate. So I'm wondering, with kids moving around, they don't go to college in their own state, that's going to make things a lot more complicated as well. So really appreciate your wisdom, and I hope people take you up on the offer of assistance there.
Thank
And
you.
now we're going to talk about, now that your mind is totally blown about NIL and money, et cetera, we're going to talk about mental health. Okay. And that gets really complicated. And thank God for Simone, what she did regarding this Olympics, and what she's done as being a role model for people who are actually doing something about the problem. Um, and you feel sad because the athletes have had to do it by themselves if they got any help at all. And now finally people are going, oh, well, maybe, maybe we should be helping them out. And definitely maybe we should not be stressing them out more, as I think I'm really concerned about how the Olympics and other sports have been treating our children as well. So with that, Shauntia is going to talk about mental health, and a little bit maybe on physical health as well. But she's going to probably surprise you with some of the things she talks about. But what I always emphasize, it's a family affair. People remember that song if you're a baby boomer, but it's a family affair. So it's not just the athlete. It's under pressure. It's not even just the athlete and the parents. If there are other children in the family, there can be problems and issues there as well. So with that, you're on, Shauntia. You're on mute. We can, you need to speak up. You need to speak up louder.
Is this better?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Just wanted to make sure. There's quite a few information. Thank you all first before I begin for inviting me. It's a privilege to discuss this topic that sits at the intersection of sports, education, and family dynamics. Focusing on the vital role of family involvement in the lives of intercollegiate athletes are vital. My background as a licensed social worker instructor of social work education at Grand Canyon University sets me up for this conversation because I teach this. I teach social problems, I teach social work ethics, I teach generalist practice, program management, and human development. And within the 15 years of my experience within higher education across Washington, D.C., where I'm originally from, in Maryland, and now the greater Phoenix area, I see firsthand at Grand Canyon University some of the most profound effects of the family system, athletics, and what I mentioned earlier around education and the intersectionality with all the mental health and some of the other indicators that students are facing. It all comes together, and we are able to see how students navigate these roles and determine their success and well-being. And so today I want to talk about mental health and what that looks like, provide some statistics on what does it look like to have a healthy environment that supports the mental health and promotes the well-being of parents, most importantly, as you are the lifeline for your child, your adult child who are also athletes. Today I want you all to see in students today and athletes already have plenty of things on their plates, right? We said this today, and navigating NIL requires you to have knowledge of taxation, requires you to have knowledge of legal protections, and also now mental health protections, right? So when we think of, because NIL has changed the rules and changed the landscape of college students today, these changes have been very fluid since largely around COVID, right? We've seen Caitlin Clark, we've seen Angela Rice, and we've seen how ultimately they're facing a lot of this paradigm shift of how they're navigating the name, the image, and the likeness and trade portal, and ultimately how it's affecting their mental health, especially when we think about how these issues and layers of stressors could be good and bad on your students. When we think about another aspect of, some of you all on a Zoom have been either recruited with or have considered the benefits of NIL, I want you to think about how financially helpful it has been. So oftentimes when I meet with students, we always talk about how their environment is often supported by financial resources, and it often provides, NIL provides financial resources to your family. And so when we think about how these resources affect, it's also helpful for us to think about how do we navigate. So today I want to share some insights on how parents can build their own support squad and why assembling the right team is critical to navigating the complex world of collegiate athletes. So when we think about how have, you have served as spectators of your child's life, these are your babies. These are individuals that you've seen grow up, that you love, that you've nurtured, and these are all facts. And undoubtedly, a fact is you play an important role in a child's success, both directly and indirectly. So when we think about how you first enrolled them in the sport, right? That could be that can be 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and seeing them mature and develop these mastery of skills, you're now seeing a pivot to how you're providing more indirect skills, which is providing emotional support throughout their early collegiate career. However, one of the other areas that become a huge stressor from a developmental standpoint is how they're transitioning from adolescence to adulthood. And that can be a very stressful and tenuous period, particularly for those that are navigating the shift in roles, right? Because it presents challenges in the family system as this transition. So the transition from adolescence to adulthood is a challenging period. So your role as a parent, which you've maintained for 18 years, is now evolving from a leader, right? You're a leader to your child. You're providing leadership to them as a nurturer, as a provider, where you provided the means and guidance in their participation and success in these sports, to now being them eloping, leaving your home, and now you're providing an emotional support role. And what I tell my students ultimately is when we provide support, whether it be to your future clients, right, as a future clinician, you always have to think about how you're evaluating self-efficacy, right? But the way that is different for you all is you're providing self-efficacy, meaning independence, emotional independence, physical independence, financial independence, is how you ultimately going to recognize that you're providing these self-efficacy, but you're also realizing that they're physically distant from you, right? There's no longer this, you can call them, but I can see them at night and provide them and educate them and respect their autonomy while they're also living in this adolescent world. And that's very fearful for parents who might have a level of attachment to their child that otherwise they might feel that they may not be ready for, right? In addition to all these other stressors associated with being an athlete. So when we start thinking about stress and we start thinking about balancing stress and providing support for these pressures that students are facing, that you're facing or experiencing indirectly, you're also thinking about managing your own emotional investment, right? So how invested am I going to be? How am I going to confront the realistic reality that your child has protections in higher education as it relates to what they can or cannot do, but then you also have protections in ensuring that your child is healthy and still a part of your insurance, right? Many of you all, one of the risks of being an athlete is you're injury prone. Right. So let's not forget that although your child are now adult, there's still aspects of your life that makes it stressor because you're providing them with insurance, this layer of stress if injury occurs, but you're also told that they're adults. Right. So this balance of respecting their autonomy, respecting their independence, but also providing them emotional support can be very challenging. So when I'm also in my classroom, we talk about, what do you do? How do we navigate this? How do we support ourselves? I often use a metaphor of filling your cup. How are you filling up your cup? How are you taking care of yourself? Because some of you may have been exploring this fine line between, as I said before, providing adequate support or providing not too much support. So again, this transition is an investment within itself, but it's also, speaking of taxation, emotionally taxing, right? Especially for those that feel the loss of that independent role. So how do you fill your cup? Especially in this multi-dimensional paradigm shift where you all are still the core of your child life, but at the same time, you're also anxiety provoked because you're away from them. So the first step we do in understanding how to fill your cup is knowing who is in your child's environment. So again, in my class, I'm going to use my class analogy again, because I'm very proud of being a professor at Grand Canyon University, is I always remind my students, my social work students, is the importance of understanding who is in your client's environment. So part of being knowledgeable of your client's environment is understanding that your child is at the nucleus, right? So their motivations, which you inspired, their thoughts, which you also inspired, their feelings, which you've also inspired and cultivated over the 18 years plus of their lives, is critical to recognizing the broader context in which they exist, right? So taking this person and environment perspective allows you all to see the independence and importance, and also keep those systems and environments around your child as a protective factor. And those supports include, in yourself, family, community, social networks, and societal structures. So we're going to talk about these social networks, societal structures, and contexts. And I'm going to ask you to think about, right, if we were to do an activity today, think about who is a part of your child support system, right? And as clinicians, as I said earlier, we refer that as protective factors. What are those protective factors, such as families, friends, mentors, advisors, community resources, that can provide emotional support? So that way you're not filling all of your children's cup, but you're also retaining and replenishing your own. And so when we start thinking about identifying and understanding those elements, I want us to begin to think about that. So when we think about the nucleus, right? So think about a system, right? We're going to create circles, and we're going to think about circles, and the smallest circle in that circle is going to be the nucleus, and that's going to be your child, your athlete, your adult athlete. And then outside of that circle, so we're going to create a second circle that's overlaps the first one, the smaller one, that nucleus. And part of that second circle is going to be those that have direct influence. That direct influence could be you, right? Your family. And you and your family ultimately, right, are really important. So parents, again, create that understanding and importance of support, because you're also part of that direct contact. You're going to be navigating Division I coaches, right? So those coaches, right? We heard from Amy Boggs, who's the vice president of athletics of GCU's campus, right? And other coaches and academic advisors, right? Those are all direct influencers or involvers in your child's life. So always think about, you're going to continue to be a key player in that, and as they build their academic experiences and decisions. Another, and then also family, right? So other family members, cousins, aunts, uncles, those fans, those sideline, we heard earlier, sideline coaches that ultimately support your child's experiences and decision-making as an adult, right? That ultimately, because what we realize, research has shown that coaches look to parents to not only bolster mental health and academic success and sports outcome and performance, but also emotional independence, right? We want to make sure that our students are making sound emotional decisions so that they're not impulsive or irrational, right? And it's so easy to do that when we see money thrown, right? Financial decisions ultimately tie to our emotional stability as well as independence. And then also when we think about indirect influences, so that third box outside of the direct influence is the healthcare professionals, right? So when we think about healthcare professionals, they play a major role in you helping to navigate the success of your athlete physically, right? So when we think about how they're navigating their own physical health, right? Ensuring that they're not taking on too much stress. They're not burning themselves out, both physically and mentally, and that they're meeting the dual demands of both sports and athletics. There's plenty of research that I can cite to you around the American College Health Association and the percentage of anxiety that students face, right? Because athleticism and the college experience are anxiety provoking. So we need to make sure that they have proper resources. So along with mental health professionals, so that we can, physical health or healthcare professionals, when we start thinking about, injuries and things like that, and ensuring that they're not overtaxing themselves physically, that leads to future impairments or injuries. We want to start thinking about mental health practitioners. What are you doing to fill your cup, right? So you're ensuring that they have insurance, but then also ensuring that they have mental health insurance. So ensuring that they are receiving the proper support and that you are getting the proper support and understanding the emotional demands and filling your cup so that you have the proper coping mechanisms to address the stress and the emotional transitions that come with this newfound role of being less of a leader and more of a emotional support guide. Another aspect, for the sake of time, I want to introduce to you all, just as far as support, is the role of siblings and grandparent support and just family cohesion as a whole. When we start thinking about sibling support and that dynamic of, oftentimes it's not just one child that's doing a sport, right? Generally in sport families, everyone is athletic and everyone is focusing on building a family brand ultimately, right? And so when we think about the engagement of brothers and sisters, me as a child, my brother and I played tennis. We were very competitive in playing tennis. We played tennis all the way up to the collegiate level. And so when we start thinking about the importance of that sibling, it's in developing that motivation and emotional support to cultivate that relationship and continue to see that relationship grow. Grandparents also play a significant role in the involvement of supports activities as it relates to stabilizing the effect of the family as a matriarch or patriarchy, and providing a sense of nurture and mediator of one's overarching sense of demands as to their schedule, but also just that fan that says hoorah, that cheerleader between the parent and the child. And lastly, I just want to emphasize, as a whole, community resources can be an ultimately effect for you too. So figuring out for you, what are some online platforms, whether it be social media or resources outside of your, inside of your church, because there's some churches that also have sports clubs and other things that you can do as an outlet. They often say, once you're an athlete, you're always an athlete. And so, doing things that ultimately allows you to do that. And I would be remiss if I didn't include some basic recommendations, right? So always focus on, as a parent, filling up your cup and making sure that your child sees by example, is focus on sleep. Right? Sleep has been an important overarching factor in maintaining various schedules and is beneficial for the overall education, for not only for you and your health, but also being able to stabilize and provide coping mechanisms for your child as well. And then also think about training, figuring out how to train and support coaches. Ultimately is one of those mental health seeking behaviors that is really important to ensure that while you're providing support for your child, that ultimately your coach is going to be the direct lifeline to the success and performance of your child as an athlete. So ensuring that your coaches are well informed of your child's mental health literacy, being a trauma-informed coach regarding your child's needs if your child is neurodivergent, and also being a basic promoter and supporter of mental health to your coach. Some coaches understand the importance of mental health, some don't. So making sure that the coach is very knowledgeable of the needs of your child becomes even more sustainable for the health and success and well-being of your child. So I just wanted to share those strategies with you to help you understand how to support and understand athletics from a mental health standpoint. My contact information is Wise Social Work. I lead a program here in Arizona in the state of Maryland called Wise Social Work, where we work with high school students and college students to promote social work education across the country. Social work education is not ultimately taught in high school or public education. When we think about how do we promote these mental health structures and how do we work as a family and person environment perspective, which is hallmark to the pedagogy of social work practice. And then also I have a background, I didn't mention this earlier, but I do also have a background in teaching entrepreneurship. Part of my not only collegiate success at University of Maryland, but also supplemental, I guess, education is learning how to write business plans and teaching entrepreneurship to students. That also includes athletes. So entrepreneurship is definitely the way to be. If your child decides to be an entrepreneur, these health strategies will be an ultimate bedrock for them and maintaining their success as a college student as well as a professional.
Oh, thank you. Well, everyone can see we were very blessed today to have 3 really talented ladies. Um, the information is incredible that you shared. It's a lot of things that people don't think about, we don't want to think about, but we have to think about. And you're going to be seeing a lot more of them and other people who are going to share that kind of expertise with the people who are involved with World's Best Connectors, or specifically with this program, Wish I Had Known. We have a couple of minutes, so I wanted to ask a couple of questions. There were so many going through my head, but I want to ask a couple of questions. And one, again, encourage people to go to the website, wishihadknown.net, or wish-I-had-known.com, and you're able to ask questions there. The information on these speakers is also there, and their phone numbers are there as well, and their emails, so you can follow up with them. But Taylor Wellman, who is one of the people at WBC, she does AV work, and very talented young lady. So she had a couple of questions that are pretty relevant that I want to ask. NIL, of course, comes up, and people are fearful of it because of the horror stories that you hear. Yes, you want your kid to get the money, but then you hear about what happened to Joe Blow and his family as a result of getting ripped off. So, Coach K, what kinds of things should you look for when you're interviewing or recruiting or looking for an NIL agent?
Unfortunately, yes, there are a lot of shysters, I'm going to say, that might be not the correct word, that is taking advantage of this space right now. The NCAA are in the process of making sure that all brand agents are putting their names or company on their NCAA website. That way it's vetted and you know who you're dealing with is the real deal. It's unfortunate. It is unfortunate. However, yeah, definitely do the research as far as past people that they've dealt with, who they've helped, just to try to get some type of foundation on the person that you dealt with. If they're moving fast, talking too fast, back up, take a beat, because then they're trying to get you excited and snatch you while you're excited. Like, take a beat. Tell them to give you 24 to 48 to then come back. If they're patient, then they may have some validity to them. But the website will be coming out with the NCAA. That way you know who's serious about it, and then just make them don't rush you into something that you're not ready for just because you're excited about it.
Right. Yeah. And that happens in the finance world too, doesn't it, Tori?
It does.
Everybody's a financial planner. Okay.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So how do you find the right one? It gets confusing because you have the agencies that are doing all the commercials on television, and then you have the little guy that lives next door. What advice do you have for parents when they're trying to get some financial help?
Utilize your professionals. Do your research, vet them, check references, like Coach K was talking about. You really can avoid a ton of headache by doing a small amount of research and know the individuals that you're working with. Is this a company that has been in business for years? And is the advice that you're getting, is it sound? Are you able to collab with other professionals and get that same information? Just doing a little bit of research is really going to protect parents when they're trying to build this team of experts for their young athletes.
Yeah, true. And communication is so important.
So,
A friend of mine says, if you haven't heard from your financial planner in a year,
oh my gosh.
time to do something else.
Yeah.
And I had that situation happen a couple of times. So anyway, that's good. Shauntia, I was thinking about one thing when I was doing research for all of this work that we're doing with students and their parents. Gymnastics, they're starting out at 4 years old. Okay. What kind of advice do you have for parents? I can't say under that kind of pressure, but I know there's no ideal age and every sport is going to be different. But how should a parent judge or figure out that it's age appropriate for them to start training?
Absolutely. So you're asking, how do you figure out whether
Yeah,
what
what are some,
aspect
yeah, maybe
of
what are some
athletics
of
is
the
age
telltale,
appropriate?
yeah, maybe what are
Okay.
some of the telltale signs that your
No,
child
absolutely,
that you
absolutely. So I
maybe
think a big part of knowing what is appropriate is understanding that child, right? So understanding your child, and a lot of parents can say, "Oh, I know my child, I know my child," but I think one of the areas as a parent is, especially in this developmental stage where they're transitioning from adolescence to adulthood, they're forming a new identity. And so really being able to listen to your child and what their needs are and figuring out what is appropriate, because we can, as parents, we can have a sense of, well, I think this is appropriate because this is how I raise my child. But then also when we think about the adolescent transition from adulthood to adolescence to adulthood, we start thinking through, well, who is this new person that I'm starting to learn, right? It's almost a process of relearning when a child is trained during this transition, especially when they have a taste of autonomy in the collegiate setting. And so I think one of the most telling aspects of really understanding to parents what is appropriate for that adolescent transitioning to adulthood is figuring out and listening to your child and saying, what are your new needs? Because those needs are going to be different from when they were living with you and when they're living as a college student. And so I would say really listening to their child and having open and transparent conversations with them and helping them navigate who they are in their new identity as a college student. Because oftentimes when I meet with students, it's really about what their this newfound identity is, and navigating this new identity, because it's very different than the child they left as a high school graduate. And so I think that's really where it's a very complicated response, because it just requires a level of understanding and acceptance of parents knowing what this new identity is and how to support your adult child throughout this transition of adolescence to adulthood, and figuring out how to support them while also these financial incentives are going on. Because I just want to add one more thought. When we start thinking about the name, the image and likeness, and the emphasis on social media and creating these brand-worthy identities, right? That can sometimes conflict with who they're trying to decide who they are, right? And so we start thinking about the whole notion of identity as a transitional point of social emotional mastery, which theoretically they're trying to navigate, and the loss of that. And sometimes the challenge of social media in developing the authentic voice in brand. And so I really would say having those frank conversations with your adult child, and figuring out what their new needs are, what their challenges are, and really helping them emotionally, right? Not being that leader role again, right? Not being that parent as a leader, but being that emotional support where they're making the decisions and they're feeling confident in those decisions that they're making.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Hopefully I answered your question.
Yes, you do.
But it's
Yeah.
about what it's about what the adult child wants at when they transition to being a college student. And that transition and that identity of who they are is going to be somewhat very different than who when they left the nest. And
Yes.
so being able to navigate how they want their systems to look like, because the more you compete against that, the more you conflict with that, the more opposition that child might feel. And then emotionally, it becomes a disconnect. And so really listening and being open and accepting of their new needs and figuring out, okay, what are, and again, going back to that ecosystem that I mentioned earlier and saying, okay, what are your financial needs? Because those financial needs can either increase their risk or it can provide protective factors for them. And so how are you balancing that for them as now a new decision maker and helping them be confident in their decision making?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, social media, I was gonna ask a question on that, but that's a whole whole nother thing we'll get to at another time. But really, really, that gets heavy. But anyway, yeah, I really appreciate all three of you, what you've provided information that we have. Another young man, Sam Knickerbocker, was supposed to be on today. We'll try to get his tape and add it to this package. Now, what I'm telling people, we have it. There are a few people online. I appreciate people showing up. We want a few people online, but we're recording all of these because they're going to be put into a complete package where it'll be part of a training session that we're going to have for parents. So what you're seeing and hearing now, we'll be having, obviously, showing some of it on the website, but also it'll be in a bigger package with more intensive training. You may be able to talk to these people individually and get a lot more advice. So with that, I have a few slides that I'll show very quickly. And again, hope everyone has a good evening. Thanks, ladies, for your advice. Thank you. Let's see if I can get it done. Get started here. And thank you, everyone. Real appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Ryan, can you go get my my bag?
I'm so sorry, Denise.
Oh, that's all right. I'm gonna let you stay on now and do your thing real quick. Okay.
Paige, go out of the room just real quick.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
I'm
The
gonna
rest of-
stay on this
Yep.
recording for
Yeah, we're gonna keep Sam on.
I wasn't too lectury, was I, Denise?
No,
That wasn't
no.
too wordy, was it?
No, it was
Hey.
great. I really appreciate it. No, I thought you
Okay,
did a good job.
awesome. Well,
Because it's a
we'll
difficult-
talk later. Huh?
Difficult subject, yeah. Take care.
Alrighty, take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Hi, Sam. I'll put you on now real quick.
I'm gonna actually join on my computer because the background is better.
Oh, okay.
That way it's not chopping out and everything.
Okay.
I'm sorry, my whole family's had a cold since Tuesday.
Okay.
And it's
And then how
been
that goes. Oh, how that
So-
goes. So
So
go real quick because they're gonna kick me out of here. But anyway, we're in the studio. But oh yeah, that looks okay. Oops. Yeah, that looks good. Okay. Hi, we have another guest that I want you all to hear from, Sam Knickerbocker. And I was really been thrilled to meet Sam and his staff. They and again, another very difficult subject, financial planning. And you heard some of that and earlier when we talked about taxes, but I want you to hear from Sam and how his group, they deal with sort of the whole picture, finances, which also includes insurance, it includes bookkeeping, keeping your records, et cetera, et cetera. With that, Sam, you're on.
awesome. Well, thank you so much, Denise, for the opportunity to be here. I love sharing the mission and crusade of helping people understand where they're at, giving them confidence, control, and clarity in their financial future, so they actually know what they need to do to get to their dreams. I heard an analogy recently that's kind of like an airplane. Nobody loves being in the airplane. Nobody loves going to the airport, but they love the destination. And so often people avoid the airplane or the airport because it's airplane or the airport, and they never get to their destination because they don't want to go through the hassle, especially with parents who maybe didn't come from a strong financial foundation yourself. Then how do you transfer strong financial habits down to the next generation? I know for me, I'm the 7th of 11 kids, and my parents were pizza Hut drivers, so it was rough growing up. But one thing that my parents did do that I really liked is, even though they weren't shining examples of financial literacy, and let's face it, you're not going to listen to your parents even if they are. So like there's a big caveat here as not just trying to be the right parent, but also you need the knowledge so you can identify who's the right mentor for your child that needs that information, but they're not going to hear it from you. And so my parents did a really good job at matching me up with mentors throughout my life, starting at probably age 12 all the way up to when I was 18, where I would be able to spend time with them and ask them questions. I actually was willing to listen to them, and that really helped me along the way. So as much of life when it comes to sports or just becoming a man or a woman and really learning how to operate in society, having good mentors that you can trust and are going to teach your children what they want to know is crucial. And same thing for yourself. Are you surrounding yourself with people that you want to learn from? So when it comes to financial education, our firm is really specialized in taking somebody in who has zero financial literacy and walking them through the process in a very simple, almost like a 6th or 7th grade reading level process, everything from both the men, but also women. There's a big initiative right now. I don't know if you're aware, but by 2030, 2/3 of all of American wealth will be managed or controlled by women. And so there's an extra sensitivity and extra need for the mothers, the wives, the women in our culture to get financially educated, whether you're a single mom, a new mom, an expecting mom, a mom that you've got great grandchildren. Everybody can benefit from gaining greater financial literacy and putting those practices in place so that when it comes to their financial future, they're completely taken care of. So we go through that whole process. We call it the 7 money milestone process, where we first do financial education and determine if we like each other or not. That's the first step. Second step is make sure that proper protection is taken care of. So this is like all of your catastrophic loss type items: home insurance, health insurance, life insurance, long-term care insurance, and let's see, what did I miss? Car insurance probably is what I missed, right? So all of your catastrophic losses, we need to get those insured because most people don't have the funds to self-insure. They don't have the funds to just pay for a brand new car if they got in an accident. So that's what insurance is for. Most people don't have the funds to take a year off of work if their child died or if their spouse died, or if they died, what happens to their family? So those are things. What about long-term care? There's been an increased number of people having to go into long-term care centers. Those prices continue to go up. They aren't going down at all. And so that's another area that we want to help people with. So these catastrophic loss items we want to take care of, and then at least review. Next is your emergency fund. So there's the catastrophic loss. Then there's the short-term loss. Maybe your water heater goes out. Maybe you need gear. Maybe you need something that you can plan for. What's funny is people are surprised by Christmas every year. It's just wild to me. People are surprised by Christmas every year. It's like this comes around every year. Men are surprised by their anniversary date every year. Women are surprised by their birthday every year. It's like, wait a second, this has been going on for a really long time. How are we still surprised that this happens? And it's just our concept of time shrinks as we have more time on this planet. And so we want to eliminate those surprises and make sure they're planned for in advance. And then debt management, whether that's debt elimination, consolidation, getting out of debt, whatever that looks like, we want to help you have a plan to reach your financial goals in that area. And then cash flow management. Most people that I sit down with, they don't have an income problem. Many people, they could earn more money and they'd like more money, obviously. But most people have a priorities problem. They don't track where their money's going. Most of their money's being spent electronically through goods, services, credit cards, maybe even online subscriptions. Point is, it's completely trackable. They just don't track it. Most people aren't using cash. It's completely trackable. It's not the old pen and paper days. Technology has given us the way to automate this through AI to make it easier than ever to know exactly where you're at. And it just takes setting up and establishing a system in your life to make that happen. And then from there, reprioritizing. Average client of mine, we're able to save anywhere from $400 to $600 a month. And when I say save, they're not making any more money. We're just repositioning the money that they are making into their priorities rather than just letting it fall through the cracks based on how somebody else wants to advertise to them and have them spend their money. So cash flow is huge. Next is building wealth. How do you plan for your financial future? What's a good plan for retirement age? It used to be 65. Frankly, if you try and retire at 65 right now, which some of you may be able to, but average death age is into the late 80s. Many people are living into 100, more 100-year-olds than ever before in the history of the earth. And so when you think about that, we've got to plan for a long time. You working for 25, 30 years from after college, maybe 30 years old to 35, sorry, 65 or maybe 25, you working for only 40 years and then going to retire for 40 years and raise a family and pay off a mortgage and do all this, it takes some intense planning. It doesn't mean it can't be done. It just means you need to get focused, be goal-oriented, and priority management. And then lastly is how do we plan for that meaningful legacy of transferring the wealth, making sure that not only does our assets transfer nicely to our family, but also those skills, habits, the mentalities, the belief systems, the morals, the values, everything that we hold dear that we hope to be remembered by when we're on our deathbed and somebody says, hey, I remember this about him. How do we pass that on to our children? Yes, there's a financial aspect, but there's also just a human aspect. How do we make you end your life or help you end your life with complete dignity in a way that passes on the core of an essence of who you are? So that's really the baseline system of what we do. There's a lot more, obviously, but that's top level. And you're on mute, Denise.
How can people reach you?
Oh, so the best way to reach me, I have two areas that you can reach me. One is if you just straight up call my cell phone. That's a good way to reach me. Just let me know where you met with me, or interact with me on World Best Connectors. Or the NILO program, or one way or another. Make sure Denise Meredith is mentioned so I know where you're coming from. But that phone number is 801-360-1929. And then also you can always reach out to me at my email at sskennickerbocker@gmail.com. So those are two of the best ways to get a hold of me. And then you can look me up on social. You can Google me. I mean, there's lots of ways to find out who I am, but those are probably the best.
Well, I'm glad we were able to catch up. You were able to catch up with us. It's really important information. And again, remind everyone that you'll be seeing more of these people as we go through these programs, and a lot more. You have opportunities to work more intensively with them to resolve some of your problems, because we want you to have a happy and healthy athlete. That's the bottom line of what we're trying to do. And obviously that involves the whole family. So with that, thank you, and we'll catch you next time. Take care.